In this screencast, I'm going to show you how to create your first Android application. And to do that, we're going to launch the special version of Eclipse you can download pre-configured from the Android website. When you launch it, it'll ask you where you want to place your workspace. Now the workspace is where all your files and your projects are going to be saved. And normally what you do, you place it in something which gets backed up like Dropbox or Box or your network drive, so you can access it from different computers. But for the example today, I'm going to place it on the desktop. Once you've chosen that, it's going to carry on launching the Android application. And the first thing you see when you've closed the Start window is you'll see the Eclipse development environment. And the first thing we're going to do, because this can take some time to load, is create a new Android virtual device, a simulator. So we click on the Android virtual device manager, and in the first tab you can see I now have a new Android virtual device which is targeting Android 4.2. So I click on the device, I click on Start, and I'm going to scale it slightly to fit on the screen. And start the Android device emulator. Once this screen's disappeared, I can close this device manager screen and carry on to creating the application. And we'll let that just load in the background. Okay, let's create our first project. So if I go to File, New, Android Application Project, I'm going to call this one Hello World. And I'm going to create a different package name. The package name is really only required if you're going to put it on the App Store. So for this, we don't really mind. Minimum required SDK is going to be Android 2.2. We'll leave that as default. And the target SDK is 4.1. And I'm going to drop that down to 2.2 FRIO. And the target SDK is 4.1. I'm going to compile it with 4.2 because that's what I've got installed by default, the latest one. And click on Next. I'm going to create a custom launcher icon, and I'm going to create my first activity automatically. So I click on Next, and I'm going to choose a simple icon for the application. So what should we have? Let's have a little clock in a circle, and that will do. I want a blank activity because there's only one view, and I'll leave the default name main activity and activity main for the layout name, and I click on Finish. So let's have a look at some of the files. Okay, it's still loading Android 4.2, so it'll take a few moments for that. And there's my user interface. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to build the interface first, then I'm going to create the code for the interface. So I'll delete the label that's on there, and you can see I've got a relative layout, which means I can drag things in relationship to each other. So I'm going to take a large text view and place it centered near the top of the screen. I'm going to change its ID, which is how you reference it in your code, to label hello. And I'm going to change the text itself to something different. Now all the strings are stored in a strings.xml file, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to create a new string. I'm going to call it hello, and I'll store the word hello world in that. And you see it now says hello world. Now just to show you where that's coming from, if I go to res values, there's a file called strings.xml. If I double click on there, you'll see hello appears in that file. And if I choose the XML source code, you can see that I'm associating the string hello world with the name hello in my file. And that's where this is coming from. I'm now going to create a text field, just a simple one. And I'm going to drag that so it's below the hello world label. And you can see the arrow shows center horizontal and it's below LBL label. I'm going to call this one TXT hello, so I can recognize it in my code. And underneath it I'm going to place a button. So there's my button. Center it underneath my label and I'll place it there. And as before, I change the ID. Button hello. Obviously you use sensible names here. And I'll change the text to a new string called click, and the name of that string is going to be click me. And that's now set up. So that's my user interface completely finished for Hello World. I'm now going to look at my controller, my source code. So I'll save that file. I go to source. There's my package name and there's my class. And as you can see, the code has it's already put some code in there to help us out. Now the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to delete this menu because I don't need that for this particular project, so that can go. And let's have a look at my simulator. And as you can see, there's my simulator ready to go. So let's do a quick test to make sure that interface works. So I click on run as Android application, and it's now going to load the application into the simulator. And there's the interface. We want to monitor logcat, that's very, very important. And we'll monitor verbose, because that means we get all the messages and we can filter them ourselves later. And I click on OK. And as you can see, let's put that at the bottom a minute. I'm getting lots and lots of rubbish appearing in this log. We're going to talk about that though in the second lab. So let's get rid of that for a minute. My next job is I've got to create objects to represent each of the items in my interface. So we'll start with the text view, and we'll give it the same name as the ID in the interface, which is txt hello. I've got my edit text. So that was LBL hello, I believe, wasn't it, for label. And I've got my button. Like so. And we're getting some funny little error messages at the side. Let me expand that and I'll show you what's going on. If I click on there, it says import text view android.widget, because I haven't imported that particular class to work with. And to save time, rather than importing all three separately, I'm going to use a wildcard symbol, which is the asterisk, to say import all the widgets. And I can get rid of this menu import because we haven't got a menu anymore. So now I've got my three objects ready to manipulate. Now I've got to link those objects to the items in the interface. So it's very simple. Label hello equals text view. We're going to cast it to a text view. Find, now to save you having to type the whole thing, if you press Control Space, it does the autocomplete for you. So find view by ID, r.id.label hello. And that's now connected the object in my class to my user interface element. And I have to repeat that 3 times, of course. So again, autocomplete. And you'll do this all the time, it's much quicker. There's my second one linked up. Oops, it wasn't a text view, it was an edit text, wasn't it, of course. And the last one is better. And the last one was BTN hello. And that's connected all three of them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an on-click handler for the button. So it's very simple. Set on-click listener, and I'm going to set it to this particular class, so I can add the event handler to this class. And straight away you see we've got a warning. If I click on the warning, I've got lots of options here, and the one we really want is let main activity, which is our class, implement on-click listener. And you can see it's added the extra bit of code so we're implementing the correct listener. I've now got another warning error here. If I click on there, I've got to add some extra methods. And the method it needs is, of course, on-click. So now we're going to add some code to this particular block. And we're going to, first of all, show you how to use something called a toast, which pops a message up on the screen. So to do this, we use something called a toast class. Toast.makeText. Context is this. Text is going to be, we'll just say on-click to show it's being clicked. And duration, we're going to use a constant called length short. And the last bit you will miss out if you don't think carefully is you've then got to show the toast. And what we should find is when we click on the button, we get a little message popping up on the screen to say on click. And let's see what happens. If I click on there, a little message pops up on the screen. That's called a toast. You've probably seen that on your phone. And now what we're going to do, we're going to retrieve the value from the edit text and display it in the toast. So it's going to be a string. And it's going to be txt get text, and that returns, as you saw, I'll just show you that again. An editable, not a string. So we then have to say return it into a string using toString. So I've now got a message. I'm now going to use that toast and display the message that I've typed into the box. So let's just chop that out a minute. And we're going to display message. Let's test that again. If I click on it, you see the message appears in the toast. Now next time I'll show you how to use the logcat file, but for now, if you want to see what's in this variable, just use a toast. And now we're going to assign that to the label. Okay, label hello, set text, and we'll set it to message. Final test. Click on that, and you can see the toast is still there, which we could possibly get rid of, but also now we've changed the label to match what's been typed into the text box.